Hi, it's Professor Kim Nelson, the Jewelry Design Department at FIT. I'm going to continue this video series on making a three-stone ring. Difficult to come back to this because I started analyzing it as a design, and it has issues as a design that I would like to fix. But this is not about the quality of this design, it's about the process. So I'm going to keep moving forward. I want to do the three-quarter view. And the way I'm going to get that, I'm going to grab my safety file. I'm going to copy and paste it. Put it on multiply so I can see through it. V so I can grab it and drag it. Put it on top of my existing design work. It don't be crazy accurate, but reasonably so. And then I'm going to go to M for my marquee selection. Drag a window around the three-quarter view. Actually, I don't want that border. Control-Shift-I, and then Control-X to throw away the other lines. And that'll put that three-quarter view, at least where I had it in the safety. Change the name of that to three-quarter, and drop the opacity down so it's not that really harsh black line. And a new layer to draw on. So, this is the same idea that we've been doing, but now I'm going to take the information that I have from my other views to create a three-quarter view. No reason to be sketchy at this point. I'll just go to 3. And I'm going to start with my prongs, probably, because they're the easiest thing for me to see. I have this set. Just going to go, actually, what I had it set to last time was pressure opacity. Let's see if I like that, because what I had going there I didn't care for. And I need to put the other one to white. And I don't want that to be gray, I mean green. That's pretty good. Okay. So. Try and estimate the size of that prong. Something like that. And I'm going to put the prong that I know all the way around, and that's the one that catches the tip of that bezel facet. That's really the key to doing this, guys. You're drawing something you don't really have in front of you, so you draw what you know. The things in your design that you know you can pretty much pin down, that's where you start. Because everything after that, it's kind of an adventure. And the one in the back, I wouldn't be able to see. So I've got the first prong, and then the second prong, since these are split prongs, comes up right next to it and fills in this space. And since this one I'm really looking straight at, this was kind of off to the side, this one I'm looking straight at, I'm not really going to see any of the side of that prong. This one is going to pretty much cover up because this is farther off to the side. And the more off to the side it is, the more that items in the foreground are going to cover up items in the background. And this one, it's in the reverse. This problem goes over to this side. We're really not going to see much of it at all. So, there are those prongs. I know that this point, this halfway point, and it's going to seem a little closer to this side because it is. Perspective, the way it works, this side is diminished in distance. You can see how much shorter this looks than this. So it's going to be about there. I actually take it off the point of the stone. Kind of visualize where that's going to go. So, and guys, there's some drawing involved here. This won't be equal. It's going to come more straight up and down here because I'm looking more at the straight on edge of it. And then here, I'm going to see more of the angle as it moves away. And the only way I know that is because I've done a lot of drawing. So yours may not be as accurate or realistic feeling as mine, unless you do a much more advanced maquette than what we're talking about here. Also, I know that I squished that back a little bit. So I'm going to let that also be pushed back a little bit. I'm going to leave the maquette line here so I can see it as a reference. Not in a hurry to erase everything. Just enough so that I can tell what I'm working on. I think that this is not thick enough, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Next up is this under bezel, which starts a little bit low, comes up, catches right where the front of that is supposed to be, drops down, comes up, and drops back down again to lock into the side of that prong. I'm going to see very little of the side of this prong. I'll actually draw a line. A line that I'll erase later. Just so I can keep my plane straight. What's a side? What's a front? And you can see on this prong, it's mostly front with a little bit of side. Here it's mostly side with a little bit of front. So I'm not going to see a lot of where that breaks in. And that's going to affect the symmetry of how this reads. And this is all very important because you'll hear me say again and again and again that there are rings that shouldn't be drawn three-quarter view, because actually it becomes confusing to look at how the shapes move in space. This whole opening gets changed. And it's shaped because it's going around a three-dimensional object, and you're looking down on it from a perspective view. Okay? I don't think that's right. If it is right, I don't like it. And me liking it, since I'm the designer, is the most important thing. But something like that. And then this has a thickness as well. Which our maquette helps us to see. That tucks around. See, this is confusing because I want this to come up and follow around the ring, but the truth is this corner drops down. So I got to stop doing that. Yes, I can see that the maquette curves are up and around like that. This really doesn't. This already is starting to drop down again. So something like that. Okay. So now I need to clarify what's happening with this center shank. And this is going to be tough because I've only got a 2mm wide shank and it's pretty heavily foreshortened. There's roughly the center line on it. And it comes up. I'm going to sketch me a center line on this. The center line of that under bezel's basically the edge that we can barely see. So I see this coming off. Something like that. It starts with that full width. And then tapers. Down. Looking at where that falls, it's about there on the shank, so it's about here on this shank. If I were to draw a perspective line receding in the distance, I can use that table to find that for me, and this angle is the same angle that I would have here, and a very similar angle that I would have there. Going to create the same illusion coming off of here. I can once again create that same diagonal here. This should be about the same here. Okay, close. So this will come up. End up giving me something a bit like this. Now, this is very confusing to look at because of the width of the shank. I need to try and figure out. It would be nice to have a thicker maquette so I could really get a sense of the thickness of the shank, but I don't have that. So I do know that on the outside of this, I'm going to kind of visually compare those two angles. My shank's at least like that. It's thicker. Something like that. And then it comes up and it tries to join in here. To give me something like that. And it actually comes down quite a ways lower than this under bezel. It's more like this. See, I'm having to always look at those views and compare back and forth. That's why I always tell students that they can't draw a three-quarter view until they've done their technical drawings. Because until you know what the views of your part are, you have no way of trying to do them accurately. You don't know what you're comparing them to. This strikes me as too low. And I'm going to let that curve so I can see that it's coming into the prong there. Okay, I think that's starting to be accurate. Or at least believable. When you're doing a three-quarter view, believable is really about the most you can hope for. So we already know that this actually steps up a little bit. And then I get the thickness of that. Coming off of there. But this actually also does something like that. Yeah. Once again, erasing enough so that I can kind of feel what's going on. But I don't want to lose I do have a flare here where it spreads out, and I want to capture this feeling. Okay. So that's starting to make some sense. Now this could be pierced out inside so that you could actually see down into the ring. Or not, it could be solid in there as far as a level surface that passes underneath. To give me something like that. Now on this side, okay, because I have to draw this side too, the whole thing becomes much less important because I can't see it over here. It's on the far side of the ring. Once again, three-quarter view doesn't show you nearly everything you need to see. I know I want to feel that continues. Now I want you to notice something. Notice how much wider I have here than here. That's how it works in perspective. Without your maquette, you could never see that. So I'm going to get a better look at this window from this side than I will from the close side. Okay. It's time to start addressing what's going on down here in the bottom, because I have this not really following this very much at all anymore. It comes in. It does flare a little bit. Then it actually tucks up. And we will get a better look at that over here. Now the fact that this, see, it becomes very tricky to see. Even with the maquette, it becomes difficult to see what to do here. I do want to feel that flaring. So even if I couldn't really see it over here in real life, which is 50-50, I'm going to indicate it so that it feels more real to me. This comes up. Okay, now I see this point coming from here to about there. Like that. And there would be a thickness of this material. It could be almost that thick. Up in here. Once again, how much would there actually be depends a lot on how it was made. See, down here I showed this attaching into this lower end of this prong. I'm way too high here. This feels too long to me.